Welcome to Inside ArtScroll, where the books that we read and the people that write them come to life. Today, in a very unique twist, we are outside of Inside ArtScroll, and we have the incredible schus to be in the home of Rabbi Yaakov Bender, Shlita, Shiva of Torah, and we're here to discuss what I feel is going to be one of the most amazing books, probably in ArtScroll's history, the book called A Heart for Another. It's a book that has amazing stories, Torah insights, memoirs of extraordinary people and extraordinary times. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Bender.
Shalom. Welcome to my home.
Yashakar, thank you for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
Rabbi Bender, you know, as a bacher growing up, I learned in the Rosh Yeshivah, and I looked at the Mizrach Wand at the front of the Beis Medrash, and 90% were European, gedolim from the yesteryear. I looked at them, I saw them. The Rosh Yeshivah didn't just see them. He had a personal kesher, as the book is so evident, with so many gedolim and chashuvim, and almost like a front row seat of Klal Yisrael post the Holocaust and Klal Yisrael today. Klal Yisrael grew and K'nai Nahar is flourishing. Because the Yeshiva just share with us, like in having this front row seat, like how has Klal Yisrael grown and evolved, and what's changed from like early on until where we are today?
What changed is that we've lost that connection to the yesteryear, but I think they're more gedolim than ever today. We don't have to be ready to accept them as gedolei Yisrael. That's the job. And I think when I started following around gedolei Yisrael, when I was a bacher, my father passed away, and I did at that time, people were ready to accept them. I think today's Torah, maybe, I shouldn't start out with bittul right away. This Torah not ready to accept this. There are so many great people. Torah is flourishing today, more than ever. That's my feeling. Torah is flourishing. The amount of people learning Torah today is incredible. So there are gedolei Yisrael that are coming up, but the problem is that we have to be ready to accept them. Sometimes there's a little bit of bittul today in the world, which he's nothing. In the olden days, we accepted them. No one thought why Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky was a giant. No one thought why Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was a tells the Rosh Yeshivah, right? I remember Rabbi Meir Bloch Slavaya, Ramatul Katzlavaya, I'm sorry. And they were gedolei Yisrael because they were gedolei Yisrael, and we have to do that today also, accept them as gedolei Yisrael. And if we would, there are plenty of them out there. The big difference really was that they were connection to Europe. We loved hearing stories about the Chofetz Chaim, about Rabbi Ber, about Rabbi Chanan, Rabbi Shimon Shkop, and we lost out. We had no grandparents in America. Big problem with no grandparents. I remember that my class in Torah Das, 35 boys, there were 10 grandparents out of 140 possible grandparents. So there's no connection. So I was lucky. My father was an American, so my grandfather was here. So I had a Zayd in the class. There were 10 grandparents in my class, meaning mostly from 3 or 4 families. So we lost that connection. So hearing about Europe was very important to us. Hearing about the Yisrael was very important to us. Hearing about Rabbi Chanan Wasserman coming to America was important to us. Hearing about Rabbi Shimon Shkop coming to America. Hearing about Rabbi Ber coming to America. There was more of a connect. Today it's much further removed. It took me 70 years later, 60 years later. That connection is somewhat lost. Excitement, the photograph I have over there of Chofetz Chaim. Do you remember when it was 7, 8 years ago when we found that video? I must have watched it 100 times to see the Chofetz Chaim. Wow, right? This Dor went wild about it because they saw the Chofetz Chaim. They didn't see those gedolei Yisrael, the special great time of the Yeshiva's gedolos. They didn't see it. So that's what's missing somewhat today. But there are people out there who are ready to accept gedolei Yisrael. There are great gedolei Yisrael out there, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But we have to be ready to accept them.
Does the Yeshiva feel that without that connection to really such a rich era of Torah, that a yeshiva bacher could attain the godless that perhaps a bacher was able to attain?
Absolutely. The learning level is very high today. The amount of learning is terrific, and bacher maharving the learning they can. But there's more to it. As we go on today, there's more to it. The gedolei Yisrael yesteryear were such normal people. That a bad word to say. They were normal people.
It's a very popular word.
Normal. There's certain things that I write about in the book because of my mother, Shalom, was my mother the first Beis Yaakov teacher in America. And so she had a light of Shachas gedolei Yisrael. And Memela, she introduced us to that, right? To those gedolei Yisrael, which was very, very special. So we had a Shachas to them in that way. Okay, I want to tell you a story. I don't know if it's in the book or not. My mother was the first college teacher in America. What happened? My mother was the first Beis Yaakov teacher in America, and they were very close to Shlomo Hyman. Shlomo Hyman was my father's chavrusa. Shlomo Hyman didn't have any children ever. My parents waited 5 years for kids. So in the summer, my mother and my father went to a bungalow in Seagate. That was the vacation. Next to Reb Shlomo Hyman also went. And my mother told me this, that a day after she got there, Baruch Kaplan, who was the husband of Rebbetzin Kaplan, who built the first Beis Yaakov in America, came running that he met a Rav. My mother told me the name, obviously, Rosh Yeshivah, a Rav, and who tells him that his daughter is getting married. When? In 9 days. Did she learn the halachas of Ber Captain Esther? He said, yeah, she learned she has to go to the mikveh. That's it. Nothing else. This is it. So my mother went ahead. So Ber Captain said, come. She went back to Williamsburg and taught her quickly, right, all those halachas, and from then she became a college teacher. 1947, Rabbi Yaakov Bender lived right across the street from us. I think I mentioned in the book. Rabbi Yaakov Bender right across the street from us. Rabbi Yaakov Bender, my mother would always come calling us, Kinderlach, that's how the gate gets. We ran to the window. But then he comes to my mother, right? He comes to my mother, and he says, 1947, DP camps came out, displaced persons camps. There were a huge amount of single bachrim. Remember, nobody had family. And 1,000 boys, and he made 1,000 shidduchim. He says, the bachrim are going to teach. He told us to my mother. But the girls not, so I want you to give a 3-hour lecture. I'm going to gather these 1,000 girls in the Eastern District High School, which is now a Satmar building in Williamsburg and Rodney Street and Marcy Avenue, and you'll give a shir. My mother told me she prepared, of course, and she got up and she spoke for 3 hours. After the shir was over, so they told us someone's waiting for you behind the curtain. And so she went. Rabbi Steif was sitting there. He was the Pesach Achan of Williamsburg. Him and Moshe, by the way, very close. I'll tell you a story about that. I don't think it's in the book. Volume 2, maybe. The kids are so, and he's sitting there and he said, Rebbetzin, I sat here the whole time. My mother told me, I almost fainted. But all your halachas were perfect, and you have to go on doing this, etc., etc. Mr. Steif was our own, across the street. My mother told me, either she was in there or she came later, I'm not sure, that Rabbi Yaakov Bender was super close to Rabbi Feinstein. Super close. He was the Litvisher guy in the Pesach, and Rabbi was the Pesach. That he got a phone call once from Rabbi Moshe on the phone. He stood up, he put on his ruck and his hat, 45 minutes conversation. That's the haracha that he had for Rabbi Moshe. And he stood the whole time on the phone. There were no videos, no Zoom, no nothing, right? So we saw these people, and they were such healthy, normal people. The way they spoke to us, they spoke to kids, nice. They didn't play the role of, I'm this and I'm that. It's, I don't know, no bittul. They respected each other greatly. Wonderful to see.
And I know that in the book, the Rosh Yeshivah speaks about the importance of showing our children these gedolim, even if they don't understand what they're saying.
Absolutely, take them.
And I know I see in the Ater always that whenever a gadol comes to America, he's going to make a visit to Yeshiva Darchim.
We're going to try. Rabbi Hillel has been really our sort of madrich in halacha. Baron Leib told us when he couldn't do it anymore, go to Rabbi Hillel. And we started going to Rabbi Hillel. When my son Maish is he calls him Maish twice a week maybe. We have a certain half hour, we get in over there, and he's gewaldig and answering. He says it. He doesn't always tell us what we want to hear, but he tells us the way it is. It's wonderful. So I tell the Baruch, my Shraga Reb Chaim Rebbetzin Bender, Yeshiva Barapak, he told the Baruch when he went to Israel that he was into learning and learning and learning. When you get there, go visit the gedolei Yisrael, go see the gedolei Yisrael. And until lately we had a Rav Shachtel 15 years ago, but a little more than that, maybe we had Rav Aaron Leib and we had Reb Chaim. And now with Dur, we had a Reb Chaim. Could you imagine? You know, it's Reb Chaim, not in the book, I think, Givaldig story about Reb Chaim. We have cousins. The Benders are Bermans. We have cousins that there's a genetic disease in the family. In Leah Leino, they lost one, just died. Reb Chanoch Berman just was nifted. Guy in Olam. And the kids, no one wanted to do shidduchim with the family because, you know, genetic disease. Reb Chaim promised them, whoever does a shidduch with any one of these Berman families, the kids will be perfect, no problem. And this is 15 years ago. There hasn't been a single one of the genetic disease in the family. He was an Awad Dyer, Reb Chaim. He lived in Awad Dyer, so of course people stood online for 4 hours to see him. My cousin Reb Chaim Peretz Berman once told me, in the Sefer, one of his firm that he has, he writes about Ruach HaKodesh, right? And Reb Chaim Peretz Berman, Rosh Yeshivah, told me, and meant zich. He meant himself. We had that now with Torah. So we had in Israel, we had some tremendous guys who lived. Remember something, maybe I'm dashing too long. We went through a tkufa in America that we really lost the young Rosh Yeshivah. And so they did a chesed with us. They let the old Rosh Yeshivah live a very long time. We lost Rav Gedolei Shua in the 60s. We lost Rav Shmuel Brudi, my Rebbe, in 65. Shnei Kat, I think, was either 62 or 63. We lost him. We lost Rav Baruch Saratsky and Tells. 62, I think he was. We lost so many of the gedolei Yisrael. Rabbi Malin, based on talmid, a little before, also Nifta, I think 57 years old. gedolei olam, we lost them. After the war, I don't know what happened exactly, what Abishter wanted. So, but we had a connection to the senior gedolim. And that was a Meridik Mela. They were around to see them. And I
The Moshe, Rabbi Yaakov.
as I was saying, Rabbi Yaakov, Rav Ruderman, Rav Hutton, a little less than that age-wise, but we had a connection to Rabbi Scheinberg and Israel. Rabbi Martin and Baron Leib, Rabbi Shach, they're over 100 years old. So we have that. But so my shraga says always go visit, take a look what it means to go to Israel. Now, does that mean they're museum pieces? They shouldn't be. Rabbi Yashiv, I didn't bother too much in my life. Rabbi Yashiv was, the whole world came to him. So I used to go hear his share. He gave a share 8 o'clock in the Shtibluch. Oh, that was a highlight of my trip. I went, I saw Rabbi Yashiv, 19 or 20 times. Only 4 times I went personal question, only 4 times. And then the other times I just went to share. It was just wonderful, just something very, very special to hear how he's giving a shir to Malabatim. Once I had a tremendous story of Rabbi Yashiv. What happened was, someone, a chashuv Rav in Yisrael, to me he's no longer chashuv, wrote me a letter. He asked me for a favor to go, and he brought me a letter from Rabbi Yashiv, son Rabbi Yashiv, a new organization starting. I won't get into details now, which you know who it is. And a very important thing, I should go to a certain person who gives a lot of money to yeshivas. Ask him to dedicate the kitchen in that yeshiva. What's $250,000? I spoke to an individual. He wasn't holding by giving that for that type of thing. He gave more for Torah itself, and he didn't do it. So I told this person, doesn't want. He calls me back. He had a lashon, and he says to me, "Rabbi Yashiv has akpad on you." Strong language. You won't hear Rabbi Yashiv has akpad. He's upset with you to a point that he's makpid and upset about what you did. I got very shook up right away, because I called Rabbi Yishvei right away. I said, put all this in the book. I called Rabbi Yishvei.
It's not in the book.
Yeah, I know. I called Rabbi Yishvei, and he started laughing. He says, Rabbi Yashiv, I paid them. He started laughing at me, but still, all right, so Baruch Hashem, felt much better. When I went to Israel, right, I decided, this is the 4th times I went to see him personally. I said, I got to ask him a question. So I met him. He was on his way now to the shir, from the shir. I went to the shir, from the shir, I went with him to his house. So I said to him, this and this happened. Me'olam lo ikpadati al shum ben adam. In my life, those words he said, I never had akpad in my life. End the story. But people try to use them. That wasn't a good thing, right? That was one other time I went to Rabbi Yashiv, an interesting story. Also now that I think I went to Rabbi Yashiv because we had Baruch Hashem a beautiful campus. We built beautiful binyanim and buildings. And my wife got nervous. Ayin Hara. The whole world was saying, wow, the building's Ayin Hara. So I also was a little nervous about it. It's like a very nice binyanim. There are nicer ones maybe today, but whatever it was, about 15 years ago. And my wife was nervous, so she says, you're going to Israel, go to Rabbi Yashiv. Saif Yamav, right? Really. They hang out in appointments from 7 to 7:30, 5-minute appointments. So I got the 7:05 appointment. I worked hard to get it, which I never really bothered them all the years. And I come there at 7 o'clock. Before 7, they'd be there. And the first group went in with their shiloh, and they put me in right. They wanted to make it easy for Rav Asher waiting, so I heard the whole shiloh from it. It's a shrakla tragedy. Eretz Yisrael was stolen a family. Their van stalled on the tracks. Juan Lislan and 7 kids and the parents all were nifted. A horrible, horrific, I think stolen I think. Horrific tragedy. It was shreklach. So they came to ask shilas pertaining to this. For example, they asked, should we get someone to say Kaddish for each individual, one Kaddish for the whole family? And I said to myself, Bender, you come to this when I know in a building next. Like a chayzik. Where do you come? I'm there. I walked in. Rabbi Yashua said to him, I said, is it Ayin Hara? And I expect him to say, like, get out of here almost. What are you doing here with such a child as this? He looked at me with the same errant skate of before. He says, when it's kum tzadar mitzvah, nishtok in Ayin Hara. That's it, case closed. He knew the question was important to me. Obviously, I come to ask him an Ayin Hara. So it wasn't like, this is a much more earth-shattering question than one before. And I figured I walked out of there, he made me comfortable. The same thing as he had that time with Akpada. He knew probably that he needs to make the person comfortable. Interactions with Gedolei Yisrael, so I saw the normalcy over there. Here's a guy coming to his mind heart, so you got to answer him. Wonderful.
Rabbi Bender, do you know that in the end of the book, there's an index of personalities?
Correct.
And it references every person that was quoted in the book. Do you have any idea how many people are in that index of personalities?
No idea.
I think about 400.
A lot of them was by my kids, family, you know.
I hear, but I'm sitting here, and the Rosh Yeshiva is speaking about all the stories that didn't make it into the book. Kanai Nahara, like
Shirley, time to do other books, Shirley. That's it. Shirley, by the way, Shirley's terrific. People give me the credit for this book. You know, he says, no, I took your stuff and I rewrote it, whatever I did, you know, but he's really is so pleasant to work with.
we're talking about Shirley Besser.
I'm sorry, Shirley Besser, Tam Chacham, Muflag, Erlich Yid, a pleasure, a humble person, really terrific person.
You know, I noticed something very interesting, that whenever in this book they quote the Rosh Yeshiva's Rabbi Rudney, it's never like, it doesn't sound, it's always with a Hagdama. His shiurim were so articulate and so clear. And it was very intriguing to me. Could the Rosh Yeshiva give us maybe a snapshot of what it was like to sit in the shiurim and listen to shir from Rabbi
Rudney? It was perfect. He never gave a shir that was slightly even perfection in shir. You walked out of there with such clarity of the sugya. Really, it was tremendous. And I also was very close to him personally. He lived in my block, you know. And then I switched to Mir Yeshiva after my father was nifta. He took a tremendous personal interest in me, because he lived right across the street. He just moved the year before, you know what, but he came to visit my mother once a week from Flatbush. All these Alta Mirror came regularly to visit. Baron Kreis used to come, Rebbe Epstein used to come. Many of them still lived in Williamsburg. Sure, when they came by subway, no cars in those days. I remember walking in Canal Street Station and meet Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky on the platform. People traveling today tell the kids subways, you're crazy, Uber, that's all finished. The Maisa, so Shur Buddy was the clarity. Reb Aaron Kotler said about him, this I know firsthand, he said about him as the chashista magachir in America. He came in prepared totally. Was there to three wonderful children. Rabbi Brudney, obviously, right? Rabbi Brudney, Rabbi Abba Brudney was Mashiach in Lakewood for a while, and now lives in Israel. He's still Mashiach. They call him all in. And his daughter Basi, we call her in the block. You know, Rebbetzin Bender married to Rosh Yeshivah of Tifrach, and Ben Menachem is her name today. And wow, what a family! And Rebbetzin Bender was a great lady, but he walked into shir, clear what he's going to say that day, and never got upset. Would ask questions in the shir, right? There was one guy especially used to make him, you know. One time I said, let's shut up or something like that. He said that was his worst thing that he said to a bacha. He was beautiful, his midos. I said a story in the book about him wanting to put on his coat when I came to the house. And I was a ben bias, you know, still, but he was, and the clarity of the shir, that was the greatest, the clarity of the shir. I had a shtickle, half tragedy. I was in the shir for 2 years, Rosh Yeshivah, 2.5 years. I had my notes, this house downstairs, in the bottom of a bookcase. Not that I refer to them anymore, really, so it's really just more of a major sentimental value. We had Hurricane Sandy here, and this town was really destroyed to it. And my basement, I lost all my notes. All my notes too. I said, you know, I wasn't looking at it. It was a value to me, obviously, but his notes were always voluminous. It was, yeah.
Rosh Yeshiva, there's a lot of stories in this book, many, many different stories about gedolim of the past and gedolim of today. And on some level, I was wondering if when the Rosh Yeshiva wrote this book, if he felt that one of the Bacham and Darchei Torah should go through this book, and it'll be almost like an owner's manual to things that they need to know. Would Rosh Yeshiva suggest that Bacham and Darchei Torah should go through
the book? You know, I come to my office, I buy from ArtScroll out of extras, of course. By the way, ArtScroll is terrific.
Yeah, I agree.
I know this is ArtScroll paying for this, but then he asked me to say this. I mean, going back to Reb Meir, right? Nosson Sherman, first of all, is one of the greatest people of his generation. He's so humble. No one knows. I look up to him once in a while. I try to call him. Nosson is a great man. I mean, I remember when Megillah Sesta came out, just to read his introduction, it was called, what's it called? Not the introduction. Beforehand, he writes an introduction.
Forward,
more than forward, I think, no? Okay,
I read it. It's
Overview. Yeah, that's the word. And he's terrific. And then you have Reb Meir, who really was, he made me crazy sometimes. You know, if I go up to Misad Kedushin, and he was there, he would say to me, you got to play the role. You got to say slower a little bit. You know, most Kedushin take a long time. They check this, they check that. You finish in 2 minutes. I said, yeah, I want to finish in 2 minutes. I don't want to bother people. You know, but he was always on. I remember one time, this is a very interesting story. He went to Rav Yashiv's Levaya. And I went to my mother-in-law's Levaya in Eretz Yisrael burial. She was right over here, same day. On the way back, somehow, you know, I pushed into a seat, whatever, next to Rameya. And he sees my shirt, it's creased. And I said, he says, Rabbi Bender, a creased shirt? What are you doing? I said, Rameya, Shviga was nifta 25 hours ago, right? We arranged the Levaya in New York. We got on the plane. And we had the burial, the kfura. My wife sat shivering in Israel for a couple of hours. I was with my wife, and we're going back. And he worried about my shirt. He said, "Yeah, there are shirts today that are wrinkle free. They just come out, those shirts today, they're wrinkle free. You, a person of your stature, have to do that." I said, "My what are you doing to me?" You have to hear it. And he meant everything for me. He really did. He meant it for me. He was 100% not gedalia. It's very hard to step into such shoes. Very hard, but he's overdoing. Maybe he's going ahead of his father. Maybe his father set the tone for him. But Gedalia is wonderful, and they're all staff over there. I told Gedalia the other day, you ever see a torn ArtScroll siddur? Never. In Yeshiva, they used to bind them. I said, stop binding them. No reason to bind them. We have a huge amount of ArtScrolls for them in Yeshiva. Don't bind them. They're perfection. They really are, and they do the job. And working with them is a pleasure. Really is.
I noticed in the back that this was published in conjunction with Yeshiva Darchei Torah. So two perfect midos working hand in hand.
And working with them, it's been a pleasure all the years. Baruch Hashem, they're good people. They're Erlich people. Erlich also, very Erlich. Honesty, integrity, very important. So you asked me another question before. You asked me about...
If the Bachar and Darchei should be...
Yes, so the truth of the matter is they heard a lot of these stories. I give shmuz on every Thursday, and a lot of this, I not really, so whenever I think of it, I jot things down for a book. I'm going to take some of the things I just said over now, prepare. Slowly, we're going to work slowly. Next book, Rebbetzin Bender. And I'll try to, it's very hard to do it again, something like this, because the best stories probably are in here. But as I go through it, I think of it myself a little bit, so we'll see.
I noticed in the book that there's a chapter about what the goal is, or the most important in the kuda or ingredient for the Bachar and Darchei, what the Rosh Yeshivah aspires to, that talmidim should be there. Does the Rosh Yeshivah know which one I'm referencing?
I know, and I think it's important to, I want to, there's another chapter, maybe the same chapter, where someone shepherded me, a chashiva, you saw that piece?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
All right, very good. But midos, what are you talking about? It's only learning, because no shvusim today just about learning. We speak about learning also, mind you. We plenty speak about learning, but without midos, it's nothing. I cannot handle the bittul. I started off in the beginning something negative, but I can't handle the bittul when they come back. I was speaking to a bacher recently, not long ago, and he says to me, on a certain Rosh Yeshivah, say his name, he says, "What, him? Doesn't come to my Rosh Yeshivah." First of all, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I don't care. It's stupidity, it's not Rishkeiten. You gotta hack the midas. Rabbi Yaakov used to say, it's easier to finish Shas than changing one midah. And you gotta hack them and hack them and hack them. I got that in my house, my parents, never negativity. My shwager, Chaim Epstein, these people, never negativity, and there's a bittul. Sometimes they come back and stroll like that. I know what it is, they pick up on that. I want them to be different. One who has no bittul and is a mensch is a better husband for sure, right? We don't make any money. I give a vada and shalom bayis every week. And that is, I give my shmuz from the sifta at 11 o'clock, and then I give similar, but a little bit more shmuz to the Beis Medrash at a little before 12. Then I give a vada and shalom bayis, and every other week to the kibbutz to the brachim, more dating and so on. And then, by the way, I go give a shmuz to the kindergarten. I teach the kindergarten once a week, the 4-year-old, 5-year-olds. 4-year-old, they're wonderful. They give me all the secrets. First of all, they tell everything over. And I teach. But what do? I teach them in a midah. MS, Aleph is for MS, right? They're learning Aleph base, right? MS. It took me be honesty and integrity. Why shouldn't they hear it at that stage? And then throughout, I give a shmuz to the 6th and 7th graders. The same ideas develop their midas, and it works. It really. I'm not here to speak about Darchei Torah, but I want to tell you something. I can give you story after story after story of how these midas develop very, very exceptionally, really. And I think that's a very important thing to hakim about it. That chapter to me is a story that how I answered him. He had nothing to say to me. I told him about his son. Okay, but you have to be a mensch. You're a better father, right? You're a better parent. You're a better husband. Certainly you're a better husband. Really, you give enough credit to our wives? I don't think so. I start my Seder every year, but the following with a drasha. Rabbi say, this Seder is all not us. It's Bubby, it's Mommy. She is, besides the fact that from the day after Pesach, right? She's not a youngster, she's my age, I'm not saying we're old, but we have a little tiny Pesach kitchen over there. I'll show it to you if you want to see, which is really nothing. It's a laundry room, but we have it, and she's working ready from after Pesach. But I'm cleaning the house. But all that, she sets the tone for the ehrlichkeit in the home. And we got to make sure we take care of our wives. And if you learn midas when you're young, you'll be a better husband and a better father. My mother never ever gave us a patch, nothing. Never ever. she would, who doesn't give a little petulant to their kids, right? Never, ever, and she never raised her voice. She would say, Yankel, I'm disappointed in you. In Yiddish, whatever, disappointed, she used the English word. I'd say it 9 times a day to me, but she'd say, that was all. And they were disappointed in her, and we held her on such a, well, she was also a widow. We put her on a sort of pedestal, but even before that, the way my father treated her, we never, ever saw my father saying a bad word to my mother. And I'm sure in private also they didn't. And so midos is the key to everything we do in life. Success in life will be in how kind of mensch you are.
I remember reading something about the advice from Reb Shmuel Rozovsky. I think it was Reb Shmuel Rozovsky. What one should look for when it comes to a shidduch, what the questions one should be asking.
Right.
Maybe she will share that.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the book. There's people asking for. Oh, I'll share. They asked.
Baron Leib.
Was it Baron Leib? I'm sorry, Baron. I'm sorry.
Baron Leib. Whatever a bacher came in the day of his chasna before, he said to him, "I have 3 pieces of advice to you: be mevater, and be mevater. That's it. If you're mevater forever, you will never have a problem in shalom bayis." The story of Rabbi Levine and his wife, that they were both very poor. Rabbi Levine comes into the chuppah. It seems it was a minig of giving her a gift also.
Get ready then.
And I don't know if they spent how much money they spent today.
For sure not.
He apologizes to his wife. He said, "I decided I'm coming. I'll tell you that I promise you, whenever we have a difference of opinion, I'll be invited to you." So she says, "Interesting. They had a minig of buying him a gift also in that yichud room." Yeah. So he says, "I made up my mind to say I'm mevater." And the way he treated his wife, Rabbi Levine, I mean, the legendary is right, and these are great people, but it's all about midos. All about midos. You don't have good midos, then Torah.
I was referring to, often we ask about the Bachar's Hasmada and his Yir Shamayim. I think it was Steve quoted from Shmuel Rozovsky. Will he make his Kala smile? Will he make her smile?
That's it. Be happy, and I told people, you didn't ask me about the boys' midos yet. I try to answer the calls immediately. I come into the office. I'm in the classroom till about 2:00. I come into the office and then I share the calls. Right? It bothers me. People don't call back right away. You got to call back right away. I know of a shidduch that was broken because you have to. It didn't happen because. So I try to call back right away, and then they're learning a level, learning a scale of 1 to 10. I said, "Yes, what is midos? Your daughter is not living with his Torah. Yes, Torah is important for the house. Of course, you can live with him as a mensch, right? After they have a baby, it's all about the hashkafas. It's all about pampers and diapers. It's other stuff. Been shopping for your wife, picking up your wife. Today's young light, a wonderful brother. Today's young light, I want you to know. We didn't see it as young because today's young light are so busy helping their wives. I love watching on the block of the yeshiva, a lot of young light living there. They're running with strollers. The wives go to work and they're running around, they're taking their kids, and they really help their wives. And Lakewood about the show changed a little bit to say that many years ago because Ma'ariv was late and he felt the guy should be home. The young light today really wonderful. So Shul Birnbaum told the Barak young light, when I was in Kiel, they should leave 7 o'clock. By him, it was terror, because Seder ended, Ma'ariv was 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, Musa was 8 o'clock. And Musa until 8:15, and Ma'ariv took a very long time by yeshiva. Guys walked out at 9 o'clock, and they went home and they found their wives plopped down on the sofa, tired out, putting the kids to sleep. Today's young light are very helpful in that way. They really are. Remember one thing, I think a little bit of what happened, I should have put this in the book. I wrote a book about my parents, written by Mrs. Glicksman, ArtScroll, A Tale of Two Worlds. Those did very well then. So in that book, last minute, just for publishing, my father had a close friend, Phil Riddles, who didn't go there to the mirror together with my father and Rabbi Pincus together, Shimshon Pincus' father. So they tried to get him to come, 24 letters between two of them. They wrote to their friend, Phil, join us in the mirror. And one of the letters, my father wrote to Seder Hayom in the mirror. 8 o'clock was Shachris, right? 3 o'clock they went to the Dira, wherever they for lunch. Came back, I think 5 o'clock. 10 o'clock they went for supper. So a lot of the yeshivas carried over that Seder Hayom, but there were no younger light in the mirror. There's 1 or 2 people who were married and had a kid. And today's younger light answer the call. They really do. The younger light today, many of them, and they really answer the call. So they're really wonderful.
Rabbi Bender, there's a lot of amazing midos. One midos that I thought was so special, and I hope the Rosh Yeshivah could share it with us, was the story of I don't want to ruin it before we say it, at the dinner where the speaker asked if they could please call his mother, who was a fresh almana.
Crazy story.
Could the Rosh Yeshivah say that story?
It's an amazing story that there was a speaker that came. He didn't want to come. His father had just died, and he felt uncomfortable. He didn't want to come. Finally, he gave in, And he said, I'm coming. He came to the dinner. He gets up and he says, tells her the story that, he says, I came anyways. Now you do me back a favor, basically. If you like my speech today, call my mother. Call my mother and tell her how wonderfully I spoke. There were a few hundreds of people sitting there. One single person called his mother. Marenu Agoyin Atzadik Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita Shavu Shlema called the mother. I want you to know something. I talked to him all the time about it. I said, if phones were created, I told the Bachram, for one reason, to call your mother and say hello, call your father and say hello. That's the phones are there for, nothing else, to mitzvahs with it. I called my mother, I'll be self-serving here, every single night. When I was a bacher, I went home. I traveled. That's in the book, right? I traveled home, but I got married every night, and I wouldn't hang up the phone till she hung up. I fell asleep on the phone. She said, "Yankel, what up?" You got to call your parents. That's part of midos, and also compliments. I tell them in Alam of yeshivas, it's not just nachas calls. Because in nachas call, you really want to make them feel good. Parents spend so much time and money and effort at their kids. Make them feel good. Make a phone call. Shul Kamenetsky, versteht das? Verstanden. Rabbi Yaakov is the same way. My father was the same way. Really, it's good verstanden Shul Kamenetsky, and he practices it. His midos with Shmuel. Shul Beerbaum, when I met him later on in life, I used to go back to Shavim to Farakaway. Was macht the mama, the first thing. How's your mother doing? Shragmei should come and always the same with Shul Bruni, the Chapkir, the Mashkiach, Hirsch Feldman. I didn't write enough about them. They were, he was mamash, his house, Pasuach Lakoil. Right, his Rebbetzin was like a shtickle. We had a bad day, went up to the house, coffee, homemade cake. They were different. They were so wonderful. Those were shoes. They really were.
Rabbi Bender, I would love to sit in shmooze for hours, but I think our time is coming to an end. And I have a question which I think brings everything together. The last chapter in the book is about grandparents. I thought that was a very unique way to end the book. What's the message? And why is it so important? Why is that chapter? That's what you remember. That's the lingering memory.
Right. Those in order, grandparents are the key to our connection to yesteryear. They saw things we never saw and will never see. And we have to hear them. When I grew up, like I said before in Torah, as I mentioned before, no grandparents, they weren't around and we lost out by it. The grandparents today, some parents don't want, I'm sorry to say this, the grandparents are getting involved. I have boys in yeshiva that are finishing Shishis in the Mishnah, learning with their grandfathers on the phone, and the grandfathers tell them about their own Rebbeim. The Rebbeim that they had. You know what that means? When you're learning with a grandfather, you're not just learning the whole time, you're talking to them. And the bubbies, they love their grandmothers. I can't tell you how they love, not just the chocolate chip cookies. They really do, and you could give them what your children cannot give them. It's a very good thing, and we see in the Torah what it means, the acheres for grandparents. Gemara is about it, how critically important it is. It's the biggest bracha for a home. My shver and shviga, the last 2-3 years of their life, lived there. It wasn't easy. They were both getting older. My shver, and it was after a few years before my shviger, so my shver wasn't there that long. Okay, my shviger mostly was here for about 2-3 years. The entire home stopped. My wife should be gesund and stark. She was busy all day with her mother, busy all day with the father when they were here. And the kids grew up seeing that. But it means they're acheretz. One day we want the same thing to happen. Yeah, we want the same thing to happen, that they should have their acheretz for us when we have grandparents. But more than that, so much to get from them. My shver used to talk about the days in Chaim Berlin, with Rav Hutner, the talmid Rav Hutner. The first stop I made when I came to Chassan was right away. My shver said, "You got to go to Rav Hutner." I didn't know him well. I wasn't Chaim. I knew him a little bit, right? But you have to go. So I went as Chassan Kala. We got engaged on a Sunday. It was straight to Rav Hutner, because it meant to him the shver. The shver, he's bringing the next generation, and it was very important to him. Grandparents bring something to the table that the parents cannot, and we have to enjoy it and appreciate it. When I come to a Chassan, I see grandparents. Wow, at the Chassan recently, all 4 grandparents and 8 great-grandparents. Wow. It didn't exist years ago because the Nazis, Yamach Shmam, did that to us. And now we have grandparents, take advantage of it.
And I think for those people who are contemplating writing the book, buying the book, 100% they should, because I think this book, on some level, serves the role of a grandparent, because it takes us back a few generations and it brings some of those lessons to us.
Thank you for all the comments. I appreciate it.
A Heart for Another, the book by Rabbi Yaakov Bender. I highly encourage you to buy it. It'll transform your life. It'll give meaning and purpose. Gewaldige Meises, Divrei Torah, tremendous chizuk. Rabbi Bender, you should continue to inspire, to be a mechanech, mit Harvachas Hadas, with Gesundheit Mirza Hashem.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
And Afreilichen,
You're very
Lechtig
kind.
Chanukah.
Hanukkah coming, right? Look at Hanukkah. The kids come together, the parents come together. Isn't it so important? Really, it's so important. It really is such an important thing. We have the concept of mishpacha. I want to tell you a story. It's a gewaldige story. I'm sorry.
This is gewaldig.
It's a gewaldige story.
It's like overtime.
You know, I've written so many books on ArtScroll already. Maybe in other books. It's a very good story. I went to LA to try to start, this is about 15 years ago, special ed resource rooms. On the way back, I got on the plane. Sitting next to me was a lady, all right? And the lady looked like she was whatever, and I took it right away. What I do is learn daf yomi. I try to learn daf yomi also. Besides for the shiurim I give in the yeshiva, whatever. I have to know the yeshiva shesugya. And she's watching me. I'm across the aisle from her, right? And you know, you feel when somebody's staring at you. Mm-hmm. And I felt like she's staring at me the whole time. And I'm sitting on the plane. First, I said hello to her. I always say hello. Shul Kamenetsky, Gemara, Rambam Patskin, even to a guy, you say hello. When I walk home, Brachim woke me home on Shabbos. I eat the Suda with the Brachim in the Yeshiva every Shabbos. And they woke me home, and every guy that passes by, not that many guys in his name, but I compliment the dogs. You know, they have dogs, these people, and I always say to them, wow, what a gorgeous dog. I'm boy Elam Haba, they love it. You come back, I don't know the names of dogs, I don't know dogs, I don't like dogs, whatever. Okay, but so the kids, I'm sitting on the plane, and then I said hello to her. Says, what do you do? She says to me, I said, I'm a rabbi. I'm a rabbi of a school in Far Rockaway, with Far Rockaway. Where are you? I said, what do you do? She says, she's a farmer, a farming family in Topeka, Kansas. Topeka, Kansas, she's a farming family, and it's a fantastic story. And Topeka, Kansas, and I said, it says, she does like the business end of the farming business. And then she says, so you have a school, when do you have vacations? I said, remember the conversation. She says, I have vacation in July and August. The rest is given more for any May and June because it's the harvesting season, July and August. We want them to be busy in school over there. They're interesting. So they have a different seder yom in those schools. And fine, I go back, I bring along my daf yomi and my chumash, I'm being ma'avesedra. So I'm being ma'avesedra, so I try to do the right way, which is with, you really gain. Rashi is so important. Most of what we have in there is, Reb Shmuel Birnbaum taught me that. He taught us, he took little Rashis and built them into major, diyukim in Rashi. So I'm learning, I say each pasuk twice, then the Targum, and I go down to the Rashi. He says, what are you doing, Rabbi? I said, this is the Bible. She was a Catholic, Roman Catholic, Erlich Afrei. So she says, I said, this is the verse of the Bible, and here's the translation, Targum, and on the bottom is a commentary. Nice. She says to me, how often do you do this? I said, each of this 50-something portions, and every week you got to do one portion. Wow, interesting. Liked it very much. Okay. She went back to her book. She was reading. I went back to Imam Avisedra. You feel like she's watching me, And then she says, Rabbi, do you have Shabbat? A guy from Topeka, Kansas. I said, of course. She says, every week? I said, yep. He says, and then she's describing Shabbat. He says, where the woman gets dressed up in her most beautiful clothing, and the girls are standing next to her, and she goes like this to me, and she lights the candles. This is a Roman Catholic girl, and she's telling me about Shabbos. And I said, yeah. And then the husband comes down dressed in his finery, and he takes his boys. They go to the temple. Yeah. He said, then you come home, right? You have the Shabbat. She says to me again and again. And then they come home, and they make these blessings, and then they have the beautiful music, and not music, they're singing songs, the meals, and the kids have sheets, and they're reading sheets. Topeka, Kansas. And I said, yeah. And then she says, and then the sumptuous meal, and she says, potato pudding, meaning kugel, and so on and so on. I said, yeah. You have it every Shabbat? And then she gave me the greatest shmuz I ever got in my life on Shabbos. Do you know how lucky you are, she says to me? You know what it means getting the family together every week and having such wonderful meals? And getting together, we have it maybe twice a year, she says. Mother's Day, Thanksgiving, we have it every week. And the grandparents come to the meals. We spoke of grandparents before. You know how lucky you are? I said, I thought I knew, now I think I'm even luckier, explaining it to me. And she says, how lucky? And then I had to ask her a question. I says, where do you come to Shabbat? I live in a condominium. And on that floor, there's a family, Jewish family. Interesting that it was not the Chabad. It was Chabad. There was a little day school then in Topeka. And whoever it was, I don't know what the person did for a living, whatever, they were living out there. And they once invited me to come in for the meal. I try to invite myself to the house all the time. And she gave me, I really expected when we have to plane that one day, a year from now, I'll meet her, and she's wearing a tichel, she's Megayer, and lives in Beis Sharm. She was so great about it. That was the greatest shmuz about our families that we have. We are so lucky. We are so lucky, really. What kind of mishpachas we have, kind of life we have. Let's keep at it.
Yashar Koach, Rabbi Bender. Thank you so much for your time.